Welcome to another episode of the No Money But Dreams podcast. Today, I've got a very special guest, and I'm really looking forward to the episode. Marisa, if you could introduce yourself a little bit, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, fab. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really looking forward to the discussion. So yeah, sure. My name's Marisa Kamall. I moved to Dubai 2.5 years ago for a career, for a continuation of my corporate career in finance, which I've been in for the last 15, 16 years. I've lived in Latin America, Europe, London, and now, of course, the Middle East. I decided to leave everything that I knew in October last year to focus on my own business, which is an executive coach and also a diversity, equity and inclusion consultancy, which is all built around this snazzy digital tool, which I'm sure we'll talk about.
Yeah. Well, that's really exciting. I think especially the diversity and inclusion part here in the region is something that more and more people are waking up to. And you came in an interesting time, kind of like COVID when it happened.
Yeah, exactly. Just post-COVID. So COVID was still ongoing, but we just missed the third or second or the third lockdown in the UK. So we arrived in January 2021. And I remember feeling incredibly guilty about posting anything on social media with the beach and the sun, just thinking of people back home. But yeah, it's been amazing here. Such a cool place for opportunity, either in a corporate career or doing your own thing, and just lifestyle generally is amazing.
Yeah, exactly. So you're not thinking of going back?
No way, no way.
Exactly. So now you're here, and you said that 8 months ago you kind of left your corporate job, and you were very successful. You're very humble about it, but you were very successful in your corporate job, and now you decide to do something on your own. How did this transition work out for you? And why did you do it?
Yeah, so when I left my corporate job, I'd had a baby, and I'd been quite ill as well before, and we won't talk about it, but kind of a near-death experience, and it gave me just a new lease of life, and I really rethought what I wanted to do and what I wanted to be known for. So whilst in my corporate career, yes, I was very successful. For me, success, I've always been really driven by people. And I wanted to do something that I could impact cultural change on like a much larger scale than that. So I really took some time to dig deep and think about what I want to do. I actually trained as a coach a few years ago because I was thinking about leaving corporate world then, but then the pull of Dubai brought me here. And I'm glad, I'm definitely glad I came for that. And then since then, I've just reflected, and building the DEI consultancy is a long-term passion of mine, and what better place to do it than Dubai, the land of opportunity.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, so many people, I feel, came here in the latest wave to Dubai post-COVID. And what do you feel like? What do you see? Who do you see coming to Dubai in this wave?
Yeah, it's so interesting actually, because before I moved here, I used to think it was kind of like, we have a British term called like wide boys, a bit, I don't know, just chances, like trying the luck and doing really well out here, actually. Dubai like accepts and has opportunities for everyone, no matter what you do.
Yep.
And so what I've seen more recently, though, is a real influx of tech companies, tech people, whether that's like computer science, cybersecurity, crypto firms. It's a real place to like start up and try stuff. And also, I guess, entrepreneurs. And there's Dubai's been very smart, right? So you can have a virtual license here and not even need to live here and base your company here. So it's incredible. It's just so much opportunity from that perspective. And then I think what you've got in addition is diversification of nationalities. So less so, of course, there's a huge Middle Eastern presence here. And as you would expect, is incredibly important. But we're seeing more Europeans, Africans, North Americans. And I think that's just based on the opportunity. The world is watching the Middle East, and particularly the UAE, in addition to senior management and talent in the corporate world, and people sort of looking at Hong Kong and Singapore in a different light. You know, I've got friends that live in Singapore and Hong Kong, and when they come here, they're like, man, you got so much space, you can drive, it's great for kids, you know, the work-life balance is good. Whereas in Asia, you get stung with the aligning to London and US time zones. Like here, it's perfect.
Yeah.
So I think it has changed. The demographic of people coming here and opportunities presented have changed quite seriously over the last 5 years, but particularly since COVID and of course, just people working here remotely.
Yeah, and I think, through that, with more diversity of thought and people coming from all sorts of different places globally, I think, a couple of years ago, there was always this issue that people were complaining about talent pool and the talent pool not being big enough. And I think in tech that still to a certain degree is still true, and they're still trying to bring in more people to fill those kind of important roles. But with this, I mean, one of the things that you can maybe talk to, since you're an expert in it, the diversity aspect of companies that are now adopting diversity a lot more. What do you see changing here, and how does that impact the bottom line?
Yeah, so from a diversity, equity and inclusion perspective, it's like completely known, proven facts. There's been lots of reports by McKinsey on this, but companies in the top quartile for gender diversity are 25% more profitable than those companies in the lower quartile for diversity. Yeah. It's the same for ethnic diversity, actually. In fact, it's more so. They're 36% more profitable. And there's loads of data around innovation revenue as well related to that. So when I think of Dubai and you think it's 90% expat, and the mix of cultures here, it's not just like one group of nationality. Where I used to work, I think there was something like 160 different nationalities in the organization. Yeah. And if you can take the time to understand your talent and different points of views and perspectives, and therefore really understand what it means from your customer base, it's incredible the difference you can make.
Yeah, and I think this is so important here in Dubai. You have to speak your customer's language. I mean, we can communicate in English, but if someone is from the same country as you and speaks speaks your language, you just immediately trust them better and get much closer and can do better business. I can give you a quick example of my background. I used to have a Russian, a Lebanese, an Iraqi, a Filipino, a Nigerian, a Palestinian. Then I'm half German, half Syrian. So, in an office with like 25 people, we had so many different nationalities, and that just helped us out in so many different ways, whether it's talking to other companies or directly to clients. We always had an edge over other people because we just understood better. And I feel that is something now that the bigger companies here are investing more into. And a lot of the smaller companies, it's just how Dubai is. Everyone comes from anywhere, and you got to hire people to get diversity and grow. Yeah,
100%. And it's natural as well to align to people that look like you and talk like you. And you have to kind of put the effort in to understand different people's perspectives and point of views and get to know people on a personal level and why do you bond.
Which is, when I think back to my time in London, that's not always the case.
No.
It's like, I went to school with this guy. He looks like me, he speaks like me, let me hire this guy, instead of even going through a proper recruitment process. Right? And I hate that. And here, if you want to have diversity, you can definitely get it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think even from a friendship perspective, because it's quite transient as well, people are open to having you in their home, and it's all centered around food, isn't it?
Yes.
And people from different cultures, British, we're less so present you with some fish and chips or like a British version of a curry, but people bond over food, and I love that. And so you really get to know people quite quickly around the dinner table, so your friendship group is diverse, and it's just so enriching. Yeah. And it's the same within organizations, and I've really seen that. It's a proper melting pot, and with that comes innovation and ultimately the bottom line revenue.
Funny that you talk about food. I always say this. In the UK, you go to the pub, right? Yeah. But if you don't go to the pub, you're kind of like left out. which is, I don't drink. So that's what happened to me. But here, it doesn't matter what nationality you come from. In Dubai, everyone goes out to eat.
Yeah.
Right. And you can bond over food, and everyone is open to try someone else's cuisine and, go to new restaurants. I mean, we're spoiled for choice now. I feel like I remember in 2021, right after COVID, 1,300 new restaurants opened in Dubai in 1 year. Right? A lot closed down, but it's just so much new variety, because when people come into Dubai and they say, oh, all these restaurants are working, let me also try one and make one, right?
Yeah.
And it just, we're spoiled for choice. And this aspect, bonding over food is definitely something that's dear to my heart.
Yeah, and me. Yeah. And I don't think there's any such thing as a bad meal in Dubai, honestly. Exactly. Like, you can go and you can get the best curry at like a Bangladeshi restaurant in Karama or Satwa, like
for 10 dirhams.
For 10 dirhams, yeah. Or you can do the opposite. You can go to like the New Atlantis and go to Nobu, and you can have that side of life as well. But I mean, you get the best kebabs on the street.
Yeah.
It's so, so good, and I love that.
Yeah, and now you've got Michelin stars here, and, like, the city is progressing.
Yeah.
That's definitely true. All right, let's bring it back to kind of what are you doing now with your consultancy, and where do you see yourself in the next kind of 2-3 years growing that business to? What are your aspirations there?
Yeah, so the consultancy, Inclusive Impact Partners, which I've co-founded, is all around, it's bringing diversity, equity and inclusion to life. So quite often people talk about it, and it gets lost in translation a lot of the time because it becomes quite fluffy and it can be seen as a bit of a nice to have. And you tend to get certain people within organizations really passionate about it. And that might not be the board and the exco. It tends to be people that have lived experiences of, adversity and having to overcome that. So what we've created is a tool which effectively we host on our site, or we can bring it into organization, plugs into other HR applications. So it's simple to use, but it has a series of KPIs and metrics and initiatives that are defined dependent on the industry. So if it could be banking, it could be government, it could be retail, it could be tourism, and it goes all the way up the value chain of the organization. And those metrics are all based around diversity and equity and inclusion in some way. And they all roll up to show you how it impacts the bottom line. So if you switch X, what does that mean in terms of revenue, customer satisfaction, and all the things that everybody in the organization cares about? So it's like, it's nice to have. And of course, it's the right thing to do, but it also drives the bottom line, which is the most important thing. And within that, we also have an Emiratization readiness program, which, as you know, is a key priority for the UAE right now, is to get more Emiratis into the private sector, which is incredibly important. Like, we're in the UAE and we should have proper representation within the private sector. And again, aligning to our customers and culturally being able to grow in the right way. For me, Emiratis should be at the helm of any company, private sector or public. So within the tool, we feed in Emiratization readiness assessment to say, how ready are you? And quite often companies, what we see is they bring in Emirati talent and don't foster it, and it doesn't stay. So yeah, that's the whole premise of the tool. And where I see it now, so we're working with a couple of companies on implementation, and it's been fantastic. And you can really see, because we deal with direct with the board and the exco, and you can see this kind of light bulb moment of, oh yeah, this really works. So what we want to do is build it out on scale, and with COP here this year as well, is something that we're looking to take there as one of the key pillars under sustainability and economic growth.
Very interesting. I mean, what I really love about this is that you come with data and analytics to prove even the biggest skeptics that, this is something that they need to take serious. And that's a unique approach, because a lot of people, they come in here and, they do the fluffy part, but they're not able to back it up with data and have a tech tool where it's very black and white, where people can see it. And I think that's probably due to your career in corporate, where what those excos want to see.
Yeah. So I know how to pull the heartstrings, and I've been doing it, I guess, like impacting from the inside my whole career, because this is all the stuff that I'm passionate about, you know, and I'm always banging the drum about it. And I just thought, how can I do this on a bigger scale? And I had a vision, and my partner in this is a proper techie. You know, he's ex-equity partner from KPMG running tech and data. So like, I feel like it's a powerhouse.
Yeah.
And I bring, I guess, the softer, fluffy side, and he's just been able to completely bring it to life. And when he talks me through the tool, I'm like, whoa, how does that work?
Yeah.
But it's, it's amazing. I'm super proud of what we've achieved so far, but really looking forward to what the future holds and what we can do for the UAE.
And so your focus is now on the UAE, or you're also looking at other, I mean, you have had a global career. Where else are you looking?
So our focus is on the UAE. There's nothing here like this at the moment. I've looked into the UK, and there's stuff that exists, but I would say it's definitely still on the fluffy side as well. But for me, the UAE is a great kind of like testing base and an opportunity for us to really shape it and innovate, because companies here are small enough as well that if you tweak something, you really see the change quite quickly. We are in talks with some companies in Saudi as well, but more around at this stage the nationalization element rather than the broader diversity piece, because they're obviously in a different space and aligned to the Saudi 2030 vision, and where they want to get to from a gender perspective is kind of where the focus is there. So we're in initial discussions. At the moment, we want to like stay Middle East focused. But whoever we talk to is like, you know, can you come and speak to us? That sounds amazing. Equally, with all of these things, it's about funding. And I know how that process works. So it has to be a clear return on investment. And you have to get the right people to buy into it from the top. But it's happening, and I feel like there'll be a big movement.
And how do you usually structure it? Do you start with a pilot, or do you sell a full program, or how does it work?
So we start with a pilot, and we run a demo, show people like how the tool works. And then there tends to be a period where we're kind of cleaning up the data with organizations, you know, big organizations, and the way they store and hold data is quite inconsistent. So we clean all that up, and then we'll run a pilot within perhaps a smaller part of the business. So maybe we might start with something that's quite like operations or communications and marketing or something like that. And then you quickly see the results in those departments, and then we build out from there.
And funny enough, this all sounds very exciting and very hands-on and time-consuming. You still are an executive coach, and you run a lot of things on that side as well. So tell me a little bit about executive coaching out here, and you know, what kind of stuff have you seen, and why are you doing this as well?
Yeah, so the executive coaching side for me is all about. So I was obviously a young managing director, female, managed to navigate like the corporate world quite successfully over a number of years. But I really feel like that support lacks. And it's not just females, you know, it's different groups, and anyone can feel, I don't know, an imposter syndrome or confidence, or have issues with boundary setting and all sorts of stuff. And I just felt like I wanted to empower the next generation of leaders. And what I want to see is less, and I think this is quite old school, to be honest, but less kind of like authoritarian, you do it my way. It's more about leading authentically and leading empathetically. And so building that next generation of leaders to say, like, you don't have to do it like you've seen it being done. And it's definitely, you know, if you listen to the greats like Adam Grant, Simon Sinek, Brene Brown, they're not authoritarian at all. They're saying like, it's all about servant leadership and what can I do for you as the team? And that really builds, again, quality, effective, efficient teams, improve the bottom line. So that's what I'm working with. And what have I seen here? I see a lot of imposter syndrome, and I don't know, and boundary setting, I would say. And I don't know if that's because of the mix. It's difficult to kind of find your niche, and it's harder to maybe, I guess, resonate with somebody else. So you look at the people around you and they're not like you. So maybe you don't kind of follow their leadership in the same way that you might have done traditionally because it's so different to you. So yeah, I work with a lot of clients on imposter syndrome. And with that, I kind of say, you know, like we go through their successes and achievements and sort of say, like, have you acknowledged, like, look at all this, you know, like, look at what you've done, you know, and how do you reflect on that? Do you think that was a good job? And it didn't come from nowhere, you know, and then actively seeking feedback from people as well. And feedback is, you know, feedback is a gift, good or bad, it's a gift.
Yeah.
And it's an opportunity to grow and change. And then again, the boundary setting piece, I find people pleasing is big here. And it's big elsewhere as well. And, you know, I've been a people pleaser in the past, and I have to ask myself, why are you doing it? You know, why do you say yes to all this stuff? Why are you working 12-hour days, but begrudging it because actually it should be Dave's work in accounts or whatever it is, you know? And that for me.
Does that have to do with job security and people are not secure or feel not secure enough that they're going to keep their job because there's a lot of talent coming into the region and, you know?
I think so. And there is a lot of restructuring, particularly right now in organizations. It's all about like cost and growth. You know, we're still coming out from, still recovering from COVID, and the cost to income ratio in companies has dropped. So it's about getting that back. And yeah, but what I would say to that is what you're doing is you're actually giving like 20% to everything and you're not giving 100% focus. And therefore it's inauthentic. You know, so if your manager says, oh, can you manage this? And you just say yes, what you're actually doing is you're just weakening the quality of all of your work and you're better off saying no. And just generally boundary setting, I think if you don't set clear boundaries, it's quite inauthentic. It's inauthentic in friendships as well. You know, you say yes to everything, but you don't really want to be there. And then you begrudge being there. Or you might have like friends that consider you close and you're not actually that close. And it's just because you haven't set that boundary. So it's not healthy for anybody.
I mean, some of the things that you discussed seem like people that haven't got as much experience and are maybe mid-level kind of managers. Tell me a little bit, like what kind of level do you work with?
All the way to the top.
Okay.
All the way to the top, but it's very different style. I think when it's kind of senior director level, which is the, like, I guess, I don't know, 50%, 60% of my clients sit in that space. I give a bit more mentoring. So, you know, I might say like, oh, when it comes to boundary settings, I try like some people say these 3 things work. Maybe you want to do that. But then when it comes to like managing director and above, that's like way more challenging on perspectives. And the sorts of questions you ask are like way more, I guess my style goes a bit more old school, like when I was in a corporate environment, board at Exco, whatever, just way more assertive and to the point. And it's amazing when you see a shift in perspective.
One thing that I've noticed is, you know, the higher you up or the higher you're going up, the more important trust is. And it's not so much about your day-to-day and, you know, what you're delivering, but it's the trust between individuals. And, you know, usually head offices are not necessarily here. They're abroad if you work for a big corporate, and you have to span that trust across regions. What would you say to someone like this to kind of help them build those relationships? Like for me, it was always important to travel a lot and actually spend face-to-face time, because that's the hardest thing to do when you're always just on the phone, even if you've got Zoom and all that kind of stuff. So how do you help someone kind of build trust in the organization for himself to then go the next step in his career?
Yeah, so it's incredibly important, and that's what great leaders are built on. And when there's no trust, you just have a fear culture and you don't get the best out of people. You know, it's not efficient and people don't speak up. So again, you're not listening to their ideas. How would I recommend you go about building trust? For me, it's about, wherever possible, finding that common ground between you and individuals and as a team. And you can do that through various team exercises, but it's more on, I think, the simple stuff as well, like walking the floor, if it's in the floor, saying hello to everybody, not showing up with a different mood every day. And people think, they're going to ask for something, needs to be done immediately, and it's really important. We've all been in those situations where they're like, the CEO wants it now. And you're like, okay, well, I've got like 50 other things to do, so that doesn't work for me. Yeah. But I think the big thing is around transparency, being really clear on vision and strategy and how you're going to get there. And then from a transparency perspective, talking about that throughout. And when things mess up, why did they mess up? Not pointing the finger at all, but looking at the root cause and addressing that issue, but doing it all transparently. I think a lot of leaders fall down when they are under stress and then all of a sudden they shut down. They stop being the people person that they aspire to be and need to be, and then people become scared. And to do it cross borders is tough, and travel's been clamped down from like a cost perspective. And I would say, you got to give back as well. So I do favors for people all the time in different parts of the group. And then when you need it, you can pull on that as well. But just regular check-ins, just casual check-ins to say, like, how are you doing, mate? Yeah. How's it going over there? And it doesn't necessarily need a work agenda. And I always find those meetings are the most powerful.
Yeah, creating buy-in from your teams and talking about stuff that isn't necessarily work-related, especially if you're an expert here and everyone in your team is also an expert. So they're going through the same challenges and the same joys as you are, right? So there is definitely something with common ground that you can always relate to with your teams. And I feel sometimes, you get much closer and you get them to, like, I've got one team member that would go, he works in social media. He's gone live on TikTok at 10:30 at night and stayed till 1 a.m. with another influencer, right? Imagine doing that or asking someone in the UK or anywhere else to do this.
Yeah.
Good luck, you know? But we've got great relationship and good buy-in, and then people will do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's very interesting how culturally here, if you've got buy-in, you can get away with a lot of stuff.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, when I take over a new team or join something new, I always give my first meetings with anyone, it's all personal. I don't talk shop for quite a long time, actually, because I'm trying to figure it out in my own head as well. And I give so much about my personal life. Yeah. I tell everybody, like, my journey, where I've been, like my home set up. And then I talk about like what I'm passionate about. I always talk about food. And then everyone's like, I'd be on a big broadcast and everyone's sending me DMs like, come to my house for dinner. Like, this is the best restaurant. You have to go here. And that for me is like what builds trust. Yeah. And I consistently walk the floor. And to be honest, it's not for other people. It's for me. Like that's like the type of personality I have. Naturally, I thrive off that. Yeah. But if you don't, then you got to do it anyway.
Yeah. What else do you want people to know about you, or what haven't I asked you that is something that, you feel passionate about, maybe Dubai or the work that you do that people should know about?
So what do I feel passionate about Dubai? Let's go with Dubai, I think. And I'll tell you a quick story about, I actually did a real estate course here, like qualified as a real estate agent.
Okay.
But not because
what are you selling me?
No. I was thinking of doing this like tech startup in estate agency, but I just thought like, not for me, don't really have the expertise. But I went on that course just to learn about the industry, like a few days, learn about the industry and how it operates here. And this is just reflecting on how much opportunity there is in Dubai. I remember they were talking about, you've got all these, like, everybody was maybe like 15 years younger than me. And they're all like here, like eager to go to earn some real dollar in Dubai. Yeah. And they were talking about commissions. And there was an older guy there who's been an agent here for quite a long time. And one of the younger girls said, she was like, you what? Like, I could be earning like, I don't know what it was, like $100,000 a year. And I just remember him going like, Habibi, baby, you're in Dubai. And I was just like, that is like, it's so funny because I just feel like that about Dubai in generally, across the board. There's just so much opportunity and so much appetite from other people to help you. you know, like even when it comes to podcasting and things like that, there's so many people doing podcasts and like, oh yeah, come on this, talk about this. And like everybody's into the conversation.
We haven't talked about that yet. You have your own podcast.
Yeah.
So check it out. We'll be in the show notes. That's, you know, how we connected the first time. That was so funny. Your husband followed my podcast, watched it and said, hey, we should communicate, and we you know, hit it off straight away, and it makes perfect sense.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's true. People are very, very helpful here, and I always say, like, when you come to Dubai, you know, when I came, I had the same salary as I had back in the UK, but I didn't pay the tax, right? And that's a starting ground. But when you grow in your career, the upside is yours here, right? In Dubai, the upside is yours, which is very, very different than anywhere else. If you get a promotion back home, you get a couple £100 more or a couple thousand more, but your expenses keep growing as well, right? So the upside is never really yours. Here, if you really go for it and you hit it big, then the upside is yours. And that's what is amazing about Dubai, whether it's in real estate or in many other kind of places. Yeah, no, it's incredible. And that's when I made the decision, I was thinking like I could go to another corporate job and do the same thing, or I could start my own thing. I was like, it's so much easier to do it here because you don't have the same tax burden, you know, and that makes a huge, huge difference. Yeah. So yeah, it's just the land of opportunity. Yes. Well, what a great sentence to finish our chat with. Thank you so much for coming on to the show, and check out all the different things that you're doing. I think that's some amazing stuff in there. The transition from the corporate world to now doing your own thing, and not just one, but a podcast, executive coaching, and a startup. That's just fantastic. Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.